The baby Jag is going through adolescence, and it's much the same as it was last year. But inside there's one very big change. Let's have a look at the 2021 Jaguar E-Pace. The E-Pace is a bit of a chameleon in that it looks and feels bigger than it is. And from behind, which is incidentally its best angle, at a glance you could almost mistake this for its bigger brother, the F-Pace. Speaking of behind the powered tailgate is a 601 litre boot, or so Jaguar says. That may be true if you fill it full of water, but if you measure your boot space how most manufacturers measure it, it's actually closer to 400 litres, which is actually not too bad for the class. The standard 18-inch rims for this car look a little bit plain, and there's no less than 10 different wheels to choose from on the Jaguar website. They range from 18 to 21 inches. This car has been fitted with 19s in dark satin grey. I think they look pretty good. The front of the E-Pace isn't as strong as the back. While these swooped back lights look good, I just think the ones in the F-Pace look better. The signature Jaguar grille looks fantastic though, and I'm pleased to report that these front grilles are real. All E-Paces come with the same engine, a turbocharged 2-litre 4-cylinder with all-wheel drive. The outputs differ a little though, and this base model outputs 184 kilowatts of power and 365 newton meters of torque at 1300 RPM, which means this car goes really well, it's just a little bit touchy on the accelerator. The interior design is largely the same as we saw in last year's model, and it's also very similar to the one inside the F-Type Coupe. But there is one major difference, and that is the all-new infotainment system Pivi Pro, which has moved over from the larger F-Pace and the Land Rover Defender. And this system is a mile better than the one it replaced. Beautiful, sharp graphics, easy to use menus, there's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, plus also a 3D parking feature to help you get in and out of tight parking spots. I'm a big fan of this system, I think it's one of the best. Underneath Pivi Pro we've got very easy to use dual zone climate controls. Unfortunately this car does not have heated or ventilated seats, but that is an option in higher spec models. This car has been optioned with wireless phone charging, and then Jaguar have also replaced the joystick style gear shifter with this cricket ball sort of esque shifter. I don't know what you'd call it. I don't think it actually has a name, but they did put it into the F-Pace as well just recently. And look, I didn't like this at first, but now I'm sort of coming around to it as I'm getting used to it. Look, honestly, you can shift gears faster with this than you can with a rotary dial, so that's a win. Drive mode controls just next to that. We've got a volume dial for the audio system, 2 cup holders, and a nice deep storage bin with USB-C and USB-A ports under the armrest. And then the instrument cluster is a hybrid digital analog unit, but Jaguar have taken it a step further and actually made half of the analog dials digital. So half of the speedo is digital and half of the tachometer is digital. It means that they can put a bigger screen in the middle, but it's an interesting design, I'll give it that. The steering wheel is the brand new one that Jaguar are rolling out throughout their entire range of cars. We've seen it in the F-Pace and the I-Pace, and now it's made its way to the E-Pace. The great thing with this wheel is that with these plastic touch sensors here, Jaguar can actually easily switch out various functions by just turning the LEDs on and off. So it's a very versatile design that actually feels really nice in the hand. Very easy cruise control functions to turn on and off as well. And I love these paddle shifters. They have such a nice, strong metal feel to them with just the right amount of movement. A great feel with the indicator stalks and the windscreen wiper stalks too. Very nice layout here for the driver. The seats are duo leather in ebony and cloud grey. I really like the embossed Jaguar on the headrest. There's 12 ways of electric adjustment, but as I said before, unfortunately in this car there's no heating or cooling for the seats. The top of the dash and the doors are covered in soft touch material with stitching and a bit of leather as well. Jaguar have addressed something that I did criticise in last year's car though, and I like to think it was all down to me, but not really. They've gotten rid of this big slab of grey hard plastic that used to be just here, right in the driver's eye line, and replaced it with some soft touch material and piano black around the Pivi Pro system, and it looks so much better. It looks just a lot more premium. The back seat of the E-Pace is a little bit dark, to be honest. While the black headliner that's done in suede feels and looks really nice, it does sort of keep things quite dark back here. In terms of legroom, I'm 190 centimetres tall behind my own seating position, and Look, I am hard up against the seat in front of me, but it's not the worst I've sat in. It's probably passable for a short trip across town. The leather seats are very comfortable. There's no rear USBs, unfortunately, which seems like a little bit of an omission, so really not great for the kids on a long trip. Also, with these small windows and high sills, my son couldn't really see out of it properly, and that led to him feeling a little bit car sick, unfortunately. But there is a rear armrest with 2 cup holders, and these rear seats split in a 40-40-20 configuration, so if you need a bit more room for the boot, you can easily get it. Because it's quite a wide car, I think it's nearly as wide as the F-Pace, or as wide, you feel like you're in a much larger car than you actually are. And it's only when you really stand next to this car or try to park it in my tiny little car space at home that you actually realize this is actually quite small. And then looking at the back seat there, which is quite close to me, yeah, this is a compact SUV. The other interesting thing is that for a European built, and I can say that because this car is actually built in Austria, turbocharged SUV, this car is actually quite happy to run on 91 RON unleaded. That's regular unleaded, so you don't have to pay for premium. Visibility is fantastic out the front, as you'd expect. I can see right to the front edge of the bonnet, that's fine. With the augmented camera view here on the rear vision mirror, I've got a really good view out the back. The view out of the rear side windows, you know, checking for the blind spots, is not great though, and that's basically because there's very high sills and the windows are quite small. But there is blind spot detection on the rear vision mirrors, which is a big help. So there's 4 different drive modes: snow and rain, eco, comfort, and dynamic. And in all but eco, I have to say the acceleration in this car just feels a little bit too happy for around town. It's just a bit too sensitive. The car sort of wants to lurch forward a lot, which is a little bit uncomfortable. It's just, in terms of the smoothest possible drive, you'd probably have to leave the car in eco. See, there we go, that's some of that suddenly taking off from the lights, which, look, is fine when you're on the freeway, but when you're driving in the middle of the city, not really ideal. But coincidentally, I have a freeway handy right here, so here we go. Just overtaking an Audi Q2, which is probably one of this car's direct competitors, and I really do have to say the Jaguar looks way better. This is a very comfortable place to sit. If you had to do a long journey in one of these, sitting in the front seats anyway, you'd be fine. Where the accelerator is a little touchy, I do have to say the steering is just right. It feels perfectly balanced, well weighted, and there's no oversteer or understeer, it's just right. So just going back to what I was saying about this car feeling bigger than it is, my car space is actually really quite small, and big cars like the F-Pace, for example, are quite tricky to get in here, but I'm noticing I've got a lot more room with the E-Pace. So whilst it looks and feels wide and big, it really isn't. Starting at $73,506 and around $80K for what you can see here, the Jaguar E-Pace is a gateway Jag. It's designed to get you hooked on hardcore Jag. You could start with this car when you're young and single, double income, no kids, and then move up to an F-Pace when a family comes along, and then enjoy your midlife crisis in an F-Type. Jaguar have got your whole motoring life sorted. Well, for me anyway.